Welcome to our review on meiosis. So what we actually find then is a lot of organisms such as humans use sexual reproduction. Now for sexual reproduction to take place, what we need to have happened previously is the process of meiosis. Now do look at the spelling of it and make sure you learn the spelling because they are quite strict about this on your exam. And the key thing about sexual reproduction is that it leads to genetic variation in an organism and a species. Another term we need to be aware of is this phrase gamete. Now a gamete quite simply is a sex cell, so if we're thinking humans we're talking about the sperm cell and the egg cell. Now just a little recap on those sperm and egg cells because it's been a few years since you studied them properly. First of all, egg cells are made in the ovaries and sperm cells are made in the testes. Now both of those are gametes and they're made by this process called meiosis. Now the key thing about these gametes then is that they're what's called haploid. Now a haploid cell has only half the number of chromosomes of a normal body cell. So in the case of humans, a haploid cell has 23 chromosomes, whereas our diploid cell has the 46. Now do go careful with this because one of the questions they do like to ask you is asking you about how many chromosomes there would be in a gamete or a sperm cell, for example, and they will tell you the number of chromosomes there are on a normal body cell. Sometimes it's the reverse, and the key thing to remember is read the information they give you. It's not always going to be about humans, therefore if you just write down 23 for haploid and 46 for diploid, you're going to get it wrong. Just have a look at the question. If they're giving you the value of the normal body cell number of chromosomes and they're asking you for the haploid number, then just halve it. If it's the other way around, then you double it. Okay, so just read the information they give you in the question. So the process of fertilization then, quite simply, is when the sperm and the egg cell have joined together and their nuclei have fused. Once that takes place, what we've made is something called a zygote. So what we find in that zygote then is half of the chromosomes came from the mother and half of them came from the father. Another favourite question that they have on the exam paper is all to do with the sperm cells and their adaptations. Now quite often they will ask you to explain how certain adaptations are good for the sperm cell's function. Now that word explain is important because it means you've got to give the adaptation and then say how it helps. Okay, so the adaptations you really need to remember then, first one is it's small and has a tail, and then the reason for that is that it allows it to swim to the egg. They've also got a nucleus, and the reason for that one is to carry genetic material. They've got many mitochondria which are in that little section just behind the head. So the head is that big bulbous bit that looks kind of like the head of a tadpole, and then there's a little slightly thinner bit just behind there before you get into the tail. So it's in that section behind the head before the tail that we find those mitochondria, and they're there to provide energy. Finally, in the very tip of the head, they've got this structure called an acrosome. Now that's whole purpose is to release enzymes as the sperm comes into contact with the membrane of the egg, and those enzymes digest the membrane and allow the sperm to gain entry.